everyone. So, this is my first MP4 podcast. This is my first episode where there's my face and there's the guest face, which is amazing. Yay, finally. A lot of people suggested that I do an MP4 episode. Um, so, next time, probably they're going to be like the guest face to face to me. But today we're doing it online, virtually, which is totally fine because hopefully we're going to have a good quality for this episode. So today we have Matthew with us. I'll let him just introduce himself. I'll let him tell us more about what he's doing in life for now, and then we're gonna dig deeper directly into our lesson, which is like what's written in the title, common idioms. So, hi Matthew, thank you for being here.
Thanks so much, Nora. I really appreciate this opportunity. And as you said, I'll take a moment just to introduce myself. As Nora said, my name is Matthew. Currently in the US on vacation at the moment, but I've been living not in Tunisia, but in Morocco for the last 2 years. So, in my time in Morocco, I've been teaching at a private language center. And at the moment, I'm currently doing freelance work and I really enjoyed getting to know Morocco, and I consider it like my second home now. And I really hope in the future to maybe to get acquainted with other countries like Tunisia, which I think are very similar to Morocco.
Yeah,
So I'm very happy and grateful to be part of this podcast.
thank you. Probably we're gonna have other episodes with Matthew, guys. By the way, probably something about culture, um, and something to know more about Morocco, Tunisia, the USA, like I usually do with other foreigners who live in Djerba. But for today, I don't want to make it any longer. I want us to start straight to common idioms. So today, guys, we have 5 idioms that we're going to talk about, and mostly it's going to be Matthew talking about. We're gonna know the idioms, their origins, and if they change, if they don't change, if we have a similarity in some idioms compared to Arabic, or if an idiom has changed throughout the time. So these are things we're going to see with Matthew. So please, let's start with the first one.
Okay, so first of all, just to clarify, we should say that idioms are phrases or expressions that have a figurative meaning, which is often very different from the literal meaning. So learning idioms, it's not like learning grammar. There aren't rules, and sometimes they really don't make sense. So we're going to explore that just a little bit. So with the first idiom, um, this one I think, as Nora will explain that we have a similar idea in Arabic. So in English, we say to kill two birds with one stone if you want to do two things at the same time, or to solve two tasks at the same time with one single action. For example, you could say, whenever I do my household chores, I like to listen to Voices of Djerba, right? This is a perfect example.
Yeah.
So can you tell us the equivalent in Arabic?
Yes, so in Arabic it's تضرب العصفورين بحجرة, especially in Tunisian. Probably some people who are not Tunisian may not say it this way, but in Tunisia we say تضرب العصفورين بحجرة.
Okay, so yeah, I think it's the same or similar in Darija. I can't give it to you, but it sounds similar to what you just said.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and as far as the origin, there are multiple origins according
Hmm.
to the internet.
Hmm.
So one is in ancient Greece. So it was originally used to describe a philosopher who provided two arguments, or proved rather two arguments with one solution. And the
Okay.
other origin, which I think is quite funny, is in the Roman era, the phrase may have originated from the Romans literally killing two birds with one stone. So maybe they were being noisy, or they were just annoyed with them.
Yeah.
So this is the origin of this video.
Or probably they have eaten them. Who knows?
I don't know. I don't know that. I hope not. So,
Yeah, we may never
yeah,
know. But
may
this
never
one
know.
is
Right.
very commonly used, I guess. Like probably in
Very
many
common.
countries.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some of the idioms you might have come across, like taking a class, like I've given classes on idioms, and some of the idioms I give my students, I have to let them know, hey, that just so you know, this is not very commonly used, or this is very commonly used. And
Mm-hmm.
I think all of the idioms that we're going through today are very commonly used.
Yeah. True. Yeah. So this is our first very famous idiom. Let's go to the second one.
Sure. So the next one, this is the straw that broke the camel's back. So I also like to share this with my Moroccan students because they're usually aware of some of the stereotypes that Americans will have of Moroccans or Arabs in general. So this is basically the last in a series of bad things that happen to make someone very upset. So maybe there's
Yeah.
something that you find annoying, but it's not a big deal, but you have a really hard week at work, lots of things are going on, and then all of a sudden this small thing that just makes you a little bit annoyed makes you very, very upset. So we say this is the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, do you have an equivalent in Arabic?
Probably I can say I'm not sure if this is like the very correct one or not, but something similar to this when Matthew suggested this idiom is in Tunisian we say القطرة اللي فيضت الماء or فيضت كاس الماء, which means like the last drop that made the cup of water literally like
Mhm.
very full, or that made it kind of not explode, but
Mm.
yeah, just the water was
Overflow.
sipping and yeah, overflow.
Mhm. Okay. Right. So as far as the origin, apparently, the straw that broke the camel's back comes from an Arabic proverb about a camel being loaded beyond its capacity. So the phrase is referring to an incident that pushes a situation past a line of tolerance. So a straw alone is obviously not very heavy, but
Yeah.
if you have enough of these, eventually it becomes too much,
Yeah.
right? So this actually brings up another small detail I wanted to mention.
Hmm.
So, as we said, it comes from an Arabic proverb. Now, a proverb is actually very similar to an idiom, but the main difference being that a proverb is generally used to give life advice, right? So, it's also
Yeah.
metaphorical. It can be understood literally, but it's used to give life advice as opposed to just expressing an idea in a different way, sometimes a comical way, as we do with idioms.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Um, and usually idioms, I feel like they're more, we use them when we speak. But when it comes to proverbs, sometimes we even write them down, even in an academic writing, if it's really academic, of
Mhm.
course, like not in
That's true.
dialect,
Uh-huh.
common language. But I think we can use them as
Mhm.
something at least to start an essay or a paragraph. But when it comes to idioms, this is not academic. It's actually something casual that
Right.
you get to talk with your family or friends. And I don't think that's
Yeah,
really academic.
exactly. Yeah. So that's another important distinction is idioms are much less formal.
True. So I guess we have another one.
And the third one being water under the bridge. Now, just another comment on pronunciation. Some of my students ask me, is it water? Is it water? Is it water?
Yeah.
What is it? What's going on? So one one thing you might find useful in American English, generally the T makes a D sound when it comes after a vowel, like A, E, I, O, U.
Yeah.
So instead of saying bottle of water, we say bottle of water.
Yeah.
And maybe in some parts of the United Kingdom, for example, maybe in Scotland, they would say a bottle of water. So they just drop it or swallow it entirely.
Yeah.
Or in Northern Ireland, they might say bottle of water, but it's all the same. Um, and the meaning of this idiom is basically problems that someone has had in the past that they can no longer change or do anything to fix.
Okay.
So maybe you had a disagreement with your your brother or your friend or your spouse in the past, but now it's water under the bridge,
Yeah.
right? So this is the meaning. Do we have a similar in Arabic?
I feel like there's something similar, but I cannot really now think about anything. So if you guys are listening and you know, please comment down. Um,
Mm.
I feel like there is something. It's truly there is something. I feel like I have it, but at the same time I kind of forgot. So not
Mm.
really with this idiom. But what are the origins of this specific idiom?
Right. So this phrase originated from an ancient Greek saying, so from Heraclitus, who was a pre-Socratic philosopher who expressed a similar idea when he said, "You cannot step twice in the same river."
Okay.
So as we'll see, sometimes idioms they might have a similar origin, but they might change or they might develop in ways over time, or they might even change from language to language or culture to culture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, I feel so bad that I couldn't find the synonym of this in Arabic. I feel like I still have it in mind, but I kind of forgot how we say it exactly. Um, but this one is very common as well, I guess, like the first one, to kill two
Yeah,
birds with one
it's
stone. I feel
wonder
like this one is also so common.
yeah, it's common and it's very useful because, we always have, things that happen, disagreements. You can always just say it's water under the bridge. It's a
Yeah,
great way to diffuse an argument.
yeah.
Yeah. But for the next one, to break a leg, this one, I wanted to include this one just to really emphasize how much idioms do not make sense sometimes.
Sometimes.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So in this case, to break a leg means good luck. Now, how
Yes.
is that? It sounds like you're cursing someone. You're telling them to break a leg, right?
Yeah.
But this originates apparently from the world of theater, right? Um, so this is where it is considered a way to wish someone good luck before a performance, for example. So this is based on the superstition that directly saying good luck could actually bring bad luck. So to have the opposite effect. So instead, people would say break a leg to wish the opposite, essentially meaning like do well, for example, or
Yeah.
have a great performance. Um,
Yeah.
so another place you can find idioms like these are, of course, in movies. So this was used in Oppenheimer, which was very popular when it came out, I think,
Yes, I
about a year
do.
ago. And I watched this on my flight to the US because it was about a 12-hour flight. I had, nothing else to do for 12 hours. And before Oppenheimer, I believe, went to test, I think, the weapon that they were developing, his wife told him, break a leg.
Okay. I think it's commonly used in so many movies. I remember the first time I've heard this idiom was in a movie. I forgot which movie it is, but I feel like I have listened to this so many times in so many movies that I
Mhm.
found out. Of course, at first it was very odd to know about this. Um, like as you have said, it when you hear about it, you feel like it's very negative, but at the same time, it means the opposite, which is good luck in
Mhm.
an exam or something that you have. Um,
Right.
but I feel like it's very common. I feel like so many listeners are going to know about this idiom, but probably the origins of this idiom is the story behind it is not very known, at least.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So some of these origins are speculative. So it's hard to really know where these come from.
Yeah,
Uh,
true.
yeah, but we do have one more idiom to share,
Yes,
and that is to spill the beans. Now, this is another good example to use because we can also demonstrate how it's changed or evolved over time. I think, especially recently, because
true.
as Noor was telling me, she uses this idiom, but rather than spilling the beans, she spills what? What do
Tea.
you spill? Tea, right? Of course, it makes sense, right? Because
Yeah,
we're Tunisia. I think we have a
I
similar
think
tea
yeah,
culture to
we're very well known with tea and Turkish people as well.
right. Yeah. So spilling the tea. So this means, of course, sharing information or a secret. Um,
Yeah.
now, as far as its origins, again, it's a bit speculative, so we're not really sure. One theory is that in ancient Greece, when they had a vote, maybe for like an election, the voters would cast their secret ballots by placing white or dark colored beans in a jar. So they would vote instead of like with paper, they would take a bean and they would put it in the jar.
Mm.
So if the jar were accidentally spilled before the vote was complete, the outcome would be revealed. So this is the idea. So spilling the beans, spilling the tea. There is another distinction that we should mention, however. So spilling the tea is more related to gossip, right? So
Yeah.
talking about other people,
So,
talking about this person said this, whereas um, spilling the beans is perhaps more serious. It's used when someone unintentionally or prematurely discloses private information.
mm,
So
yeah.
the idea. Now, I'm not sure if you have anything similar in French or Arabic.
I guess in Tunisia, like especially Gen Z, we're so used to saying spill the tea or I have tea or I have to call you I
Mm,
have tea. Especially my friends. We always, always, always use this idiom, which is not very good by the way. But yeah,
mm,
I feel like we're always saying spill the tea. I've never used spill the beans. I've heard about it and probably I have listened to this like once or twice in a movie or something, but usually it's
yeah.
spelled with T. Um, I'm not sure in Arabic what do we say exactly. I'm not sure if I have anything in mind now, but
Mhm.
especially Gen Z, we are so used to spell the T, even if we're like Arabs, but we do speak a little bit of English sometimes because it's so much
Right.
easier. You may find the idea quicker than in Arabic, but I
Yeah.
feel like spill the T is now the highlight of all conversations. So,
Mm.
no, I
Yeah.
agree.
I, that's true. There is a generational component to these idioms sometimes. Some are more popular with some generations than others.
Yeah.
I think I'm actually a millennial. I'm probably the last millennial because I was born in 1996.
Okay.
So when I do hear this idiom being used, it's usually by people younger than me. So that makes sense.
Totally. Do you get to um hear a specific idiom for millennials more than Gen Z, probably? As you have said, in Gen Z, now you can hear more spill the tea. But for your generation, do you have a specific idiom that you get to say a lot with your friends or your um students, probably who are like close to you or something?
Uh, Yeah, that's a good question. I would say all of the idioms we went over today, I use personally, and I think they're very common. Like I would even say "spill the beans," but as we said, "spill the tea" is definitely more common in younger generations. Um, yeah, that's a really good question. I'm gonna consider that a little bit more. Maybe for the next episode
Yeah.
we can expand.
We can expand on that, yeah. Um, so give us one advice to people who want to know more about idioms, for example. Do you have any tips? Like, do they need to learn them by heart? Do they need to use them often? Do they need to write them down? What's exactly like the easiest thing to do to sound as
Mm,
not gonna say as a native speaker or as an American because they use a lot of idioms, but at least as
right.
I don't know, as natural as it can be, but at the same time as close as it can be to your dialect.
Yeah. Well, I think immersion is always great advice to give. So the more you are exposed to these idioms and the more you can use them, really put them into practice, is going to help you learn faster. I think also, if I could give more general advice
Yeah,
for learning idioms, for learning English or learning in general, I would take something from a philosopher named Friedrich Nietzsche, who was
mhm,
basically he's the German guy with the big
yeah, We all know
mustache.
him.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So I actually studied well, I studied a lot of things in university, but my minor was philosophy. So I was really into philosophy, especially Nietzsche, and he's also famous for saying something like, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow," right?
Mm.
So we can
Mhm.
tweak this a little bit. We could say, because it's a bit dramatic, to use
Yeah,
in this context, but we could say, "He who has a why to learn can bear almost anyhow," right? So the more powerful and the more clear your reason for learning is, I think, the easier it will be to stay motivated and to stay disciplined. So, of course, we all know English is a global language. It's essentially the lingua franca, right, as we
yeah,
say. Um, but that's not really why we're learning English. Maybe it is, but I think most people have maybe another reason why they're learning. So maybe, yeah, it's useful for them to learn, but maybe they also want to go on this trip. They also want to
yeah,
travel abroad. They want to do a university degree. So really focusing on the why can really help you bear the how, because sometimes it can, like learning any language or any skill, it can be very frustrating and difficult, and
true.
you have these moments where you're like, why am I bothering to do this? So just know your why, I would say. That can always help.
I guess this kind of an advice goes with everything in life. Like in anything you want to reach, you actually have
Mm.
to keep reminding yourself why you have started and where you're going. I guess this is something that
Right.
goes with everything, not only with learning a language. So it's a good one, actually. And
Mhm.
with idioms, usually I would say personally, what helped me is to listen to a lot of native speakers talk, whether in videos, in podcasts, sometimes even during songs. They get to, especially rap or something, they say a lot of idioms. But most
Mhm.
importantly, movies. Movies and series, they talk a lot of, um, let's say they use a lot of dialect. So automatically you're gonna find out stuff that are not academic because they are spoken. So I would say most idioms are said in few series and movies. So try to pay attention to those things. Try to pay attention to the subtitles. Try to pay attention to something that you don't know. It may be an idiom. You can always search for Google or whatever, and they would uh, and it would eventually give you the results. Or now ChatGPT, you can just write down, ask them, ask ChatGPT what are the things or what are the idioms,
Mhm.
like s- common idioms or idioms I can use in such situation, and eventually you're gonna find out the results. So you can even learn them by heart. It depends on each person and how they learn, and each person is different, so it's not the same rule for everybody, I would say. But yeah, I would leave Matthew's contact for whoever wants to ask him probably something, or learning English related or whatever. Probably you can suggest for him something to come up with next time in another episode. And it was actually a pleasure to have you with me, and I'm so happy to have you with me to tell us more about idioms and their origins, especially because we don't know much about the origins as much as we know about like the idiom or what they mean. So that was something that really added value to me because I didn't know about all of these origins. I just knew like on the
Mhm.
surface level. And I'm sure a lot of listeners do not know about the origins. They probably know about just a few idioms that we have said. So thank you so much for being here. Thank
Mhm.
you for taking from your time. Thank you for your energy and your research and everything that you've done to be here. And hopefully, we will see you in another episode.
Inshallah. Thanks so much. See you soon.
Thank you.